At a bustling train station in the city, there was a beggar who survived by day by asking for money from passengers boarding and leaving the trains. Every day, he walked through each train carriage, holding out his hand, hoping for a few coins to get by. One morning, while wandering around the station platform, he saw a tall, well-dressed man. The beggar thought to himself, "That man looks wealthy. If I ask him, surely he'll give me something generous." With great hope, he approached and held out his hand. But instead of receiving help, the man simply looked at him and said something that stunned him. "You always ask from others, but have you ever thought about giving something yourself?" The beggar was confused by the question and replied, "Sir, I'm just a poor beggar. I have nothing in my hands. What could I possibly give?" The man smiled and said, "If you have nothing to give, then don't expect to receive anything. I'm a businessman, and I believe in the principle of give and take. If you have something to exchange, I'll be happy to help you." With that, the man boarded the train and left, leaving the beggar sitting on the platform, lost in thought. Those words hit him like a wake-up call. He began to wonder, maybe I don't receive anything because I've never given anything. That question kept repeating in his mind, marking the beginning of a journey that would change his life. For 2 days, the beggar couldn't stop thinking. The man's words echoed over and over, "If you cannot give, you don't deserve to receive." But then he'd question himself, "I have nothing. How can I give?" Despite this doubt, he made a firm decision. From now on, whoever gave him money, he would find a way to give something back, no matter how small. But what could he possibly offer in return? For days, he observed everything around him, searching for an answer. On the third day, as he sat at the station like usual, he noticed small flowers blooming along the railway tracks. Suddenly, an idea lit up in his mind. Why not give these flowers to those who help me? The idea filled him with excitement. Though the flowers were wild and simple, to him they were meaningful gifts. He carefully picked a few and kept them in his hands. That day, as he went begging on the train, whenever someone gave him money, he smiled and handed them a fresh flower in return. At first, people were surprised, but then they smiled, warmly accepting the flowers. That small act brought him a joy he had never known. From that day on, every morning he would gather flowers before starting his rounds. He realized that the more he gave from the heart, the more he received, not just money, but appreciation and gratitude. Over time, he noticed something strange. On days when he had flowers to give, people gave him more money. But on days when he ran out or the flowers had wilted, far fewer people gave him anything. This only deepened his belief. Giving is the way to receive. One day, while walking through a train car asking for money, he saw that same tall man, the one who had once denied him but planted the seed of change. Overjoyed, the beggar walked up to him and said, "Sir, today I have something to offer you. Please give me a little money, and in return I'll give you these flowers." The man smiled, gave him some money, and accepted the bouquet. With a joyful look in his eyes, he said, "Wonderful, you've become a businessman like me." Those words lit a fire in the beggar's heart. When the train pulled away, he stood in the middle of the platform, looked up to the sky, and shouted, "I am no longer a beggar. I am a businessman. I will become wealthy." People passing by stared at him strangely. Some laughed, some thought he had gone mad. But he didn't care. Inside, he was full of belief and determination. That was not just a declaration. It was a turning point, a complete shift in how he saw himself. From that moment on, he no longer begged to survive. He began to plan seriously, turning flower giving into a real business. 6 months later, at the same train station, two well-dressed men were waiting for a train. One of them suddenly recognized the other and reached out his hand. "Do you remember me?" he asked. The second man shook his head. "I don't think we've met." The first man smiled and said, "We've met not once, but twice. Don't you remember? The first time you refused to give me money. The second time you bought flowers from me on a train." The second man suddenly realized, "Oh, you were the beggar. But now you look so different, confident and well-dressed. What are you doing these days?" The man beamed and replied, "Yes, I was that beggar, but today I'm a successful flower merchant. I'm traveling to another city for business expansion." With emotion in his voice, he continued, "You taught me a life-changing lesson. We only receive when we learn to give. That principle opened a new path for me. I used to think I was just a pitiful beggar with nothing to offer. But the truth is, I was always a businessman. I just didn't see my own value. Those people who gave me money weren't donating. They were paying for the flowers I gave and the sincerity behind them. He explained that he used the small amount of money he earned to buy more flowers, then sold them and gradually built a stable business. Today he owns a large flower shop and earns his living with his own hands, kindness, and belief in himself. The two men smiled. One had planted the seed, the other had made it bloom. The story of the man who was once a beggar teaches us a powerful truth. True transformation begins with how we see ourselves. Once, he defined himself as poor and helpless. But the moment he shifted his mindset, from taker to giver, life responded in kind. The law of give and take isn't just a business rule, it's a life philosophy. When we give with our hearts, whether it's kindness, value, or effort, we unlock doors to opportunity, respect, and connection. More importantly, success doesn't depend on where we start. It depends on our belief in ourselves. If we see ourselves as small and insignificant, the world will treat us that way. But when we believe in our own value and act with conviction, the world begins to respond. The journey from beggar to businessman isn't just about hard work. It's proof of the power of a changed mindset and inner belief. He had nothing, no money, no position, but he had one thing that changed everything, a new way of thinking. When he dared to think differently, act with courage, and trust his potential, everything transformed. Those wildflowers were no longer just plants. They became symbols of gratitude, exchange, hope, and a fresh start. This story reminds us, no dream is too big and no situation is hopeless if you are willing to shift your thinking, act with your heart, and believe in yourself without giving up.